This is a special edition of the William Hill Sports Book Club. We discuss the books on the long list for the award. 15 in all, covering sports from football and cricket to boxing and tennis, with subjects including shirts, stadiums, VAR and sportswashing, as well as sexism in sport and a champion who transitioned after retiring. It's a stunning selection of stellar stories. It's the Long List Show. It's the William Hill Sports Book Club. Hi there, I'm Adrian Durham, and what an exciting time it is when the long list is revealed. Authors and publishers and readers alike all find out which sports books have made it onto the long list, which sports books are still contenders for the ultimate prize, which is the William Hill Sports Book Award for 2025. Neil Foggin is with me from William Hill. Neil, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
And I spent all day yesterday looking at all the books on the long list. Thankfully, he sent me them all. It's a brilliant, it's exciting, vibrant list of quality sports books, isn't it?
It's an amazing list, and we say it every year. You start with 150 books, so to get 150 books down to 15 has been very hard work. But that list, I think on this list, there's something for everybody on this list.
And I think as well, it's worth pointing out that if a book has made the long list, it might not make the short list. It might not actually win the prize, but to make the long list in itself is something to be cherished. Yeah,
because at the end of the day, it's 10%. 153 books have come in. So you've got down to the last 15 books is good work. So the way we work over the year is we have what we call mini book clubs over the year. So we will be putting them down to maybe books. So we probably had about 50, 60 books with maybes, and then we take it down to 15. And it's a 3-hour session where we sit and we go, right, which ones do we agree? Some books we all agree on, and then one person might like that one, two people like that, and then you fight it out to get to the 15. And I think everyone just can't wait for that list, because it's recognition that your work is good if you're on the long list.
Yeah, there'll be people in suspense, just waiting for the list to come out. I think as well, we do a monthly show, obviously, looking at one particular book, talking to authors as well. Not all of the ones we've done shows on have made the long list, so but quite a number have, so we'll be hearing from some of those authors in the midst of this show. So let's get cracking, shall we? Let's take them one by one. The first one we'll talk about on the long list is The Last Bell by Don McRae, and the judges said an excellent writer immersed in boxing who recognises it as crooked and destructive, but also magnificent. Now, in my notes for this one, Foggy, I wrote, it's one of those books that only comes along once in a while. It stirs the emotions. It's brilliantly written. It tells us stuff about boxing we didn't know.
I thought it was amazing. Don's won this prize twice before. There's a reason why he enters books. His book was entered. He writes brilliantly. And I thought it was beautiful. I've not read, I have to put my hands up, I've never read any of his other winners. And I think this one, it could win it because I think it was well done. I think also with Don, which shocked me, is his love-hate relationship with boxing, which came across. And then we asked him on the show, didn't we? We said to him, have you got your love back? And he just went, no. And I just thought, it's honest and it's just well written.
I think it's a personal journey as well,
yeah.
And his relationship with boxing through his own personal, the grief that he has during the book as well. And it's so beautifully written from that point of view. And as Foggy just said, we spoke to Don McRae for the Sports Book Club, and in this segment he reflects on the tragic death of boxer Patrick Day and shares some insight into his conversation with Day's opponent, Charles Conwell.
Of course, what happened is that he fought Pat Day, and unfortunately his punches were the punches that took Pat's life. And he had posted impassioned Instagram message soon after Pat's death, which I felt was sincere, but some of Pat's family members understandably didn't feel it was sincere. So I was caught between my allegiance and loyalty to the Day family, which is deep, and also just an empathy for Charles Conwell, who I felt I knew he hadn't intended to take Pat's life, but this is boxing. The intention is to hurt your opponent. What other sport says you go out there to hurt your opponent? So it's indefensible boxing, so yeah, it's such conflicted feelings. And when I did ask Charles, it was painful for him to talk about. And I include that in the book because I felt it was important that we also think of not only those who lose their lives in in the ring, but those whose fists have caused the loss of life.
It's powerful. You get a little fraction there, a little flavour of just how powerful emotionally the book is. And then if you mix in Don McRae's own personal grief, the losses he has while writing this book as well, and how that impacts his relationship with boxing, it's a powerful read, an emotional read, isn't it?
Yes, and I think he also captures a period of time, COVID, within this book as well, and how that affected his life and stuff. He's just done a really good job, and well deserved to be on the long list.
Next one we'll look at is called Engulfed by James Montague, and again the judges said effortlessly explains why a Gulf state has chosen sport to announce itself on the world stage. First of all, I love James Montague's writing because he takes you with him on the journey, almost literally takes you with him on the journey. First chapter, for example, he's getting on a bus in Newcastle to go to a pub to meet a teacher who, after 50 years, 50 long years, he calls it, of supporting Newcastle United, has had to turn his back on the club, has had to boycott the club because of the Saudi ownership. And it gives the reader a closeness to the action, I think. They're with him on that bus, they're with him in that pub. That can only be brought by a good writer.
Yeah, and it's compact, this book. He's done the hard yards, he's done the interviews, and he takes you on a journey. And for me, it's not biased. He's got that sort of neutral effect. He shows you all sides. And he's not afraid to put Saudi under the spotlight and shine it quite bright through the book. I think it's a great book. I loved it. Absolutely love this book.
Yeah, me too. And it's not the only book on sports washing. We'll find that out very shortly. But it's not the only one on Saudi influence as well. And I think this subject, some people might find it heavy, but I think it's really important when you bear in mind that in 2034, the World Cup is going to be held in Saudi Arabia, and the amount of sports being impacted by Saudi ownership and control, I think it's a really important subject. And what you said there, it is a concise book. And I think that will appeal to a lot of people. Not the fact that it's short and people don't like heavy reads. No. It just gets to the point.
Yeah, the way he's written it is very concise, and that's what worked for this. We did, when you sit and you're going through it and you're looking, going, well, we've got this book, and this book, and they're all sport washing or political side of football. But I think it's the fact that he talks about sport and the fact that here you've got a country who are looking at diversification. Because of oil, they need to look at other things, and they want to get into the entertainment space. They want tourists, and that's what he's looking at. And I thought he educated us on that journey, taking you back, and there was parts of it, but he did it in such a concise way that it made sense. I'm not sat there thinking, Christ, he's been going on about this for 4 pages, and who's he on about? And I don't understand any of it. It was done compact. It's very easy to find, and you can dip in and out of this book.
Yeah, it moves along nicely, the book. Next one is More Than a Shirt by Joey D'Urso. Takes an integral part of football culture, tilts it so you view the sport in a whole new light. This book is so smart. It's so well researched, so enjoyable because it's so well researched as well. So your team's football shirt is a cultural expression. I think we're all aware of that. But whether it's the colour, the crest, the pattern, whatever it is about the shirt, in this book, Joey D'Urso has come up with 22 football shirts that basically reflect the modern world we live in. When I thought about it, I thought, how's he done a whole book on just a few football shirts? But it's so smart, isn't it?
It's a brilliant book because he's taken this object, this shirt, and takes you into the history of it, and then takes you more into it, and you sat there thinking, I never thought of that, and it makes you feel a bit uncomfortable in parts because there's stuff coming out which you don't think about. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a reason why he's on the list, and it's the research this guy has done for this book. And I'm like a broken record about research, but you'll keep hearing us saying that people have put his life and soul into this project and done the hard yards. He's researched it, and it comes through. And I think it'll surprise people because you look at the front cover and go, More Than a Shirt. What the hell is he on about? But actually, he'll get you thinking. You'll never see a shirt the same ever again.
Yeah, you're right. And he's gone global with it in terms of the research. The book goes to South America, Asia, Australia as well. And it goes to Essex. And actually, in chapter 4, Joey witnesses a fight on the pitch between 2 amateur football teams after an incident of racism on the pitch. And it's an example of the author doing the work, as you say, putting in the hard yards to come up with a brilliant book.
Yeah, and there's no winning formula to getting onto the long list, but a lot of time, you put the hard yards and do the research, it pays off. You can always tell in the book. Sometimes there is books where there's not. You think, oh, well, could have done a little bit more of that. Could have gone a bit further, and they haven't. Not always their fault. The research might not be there, or there's barriers in front of them. But he's done it, and it's paid off for him in this book.
Next one is The Power and the Glory. Jonathan Wilson, sensational writing, delivering the definitive history of the world's biggest event is what's been said about it. I'm going to fess up here. I am still in the middle of reading this one because it's our next book that we're focusing on the William Hill Sports Book Club show. Jonathan Wilson will be joining us for it. I'm excited to talk to him about it as well. He goes through every Football World Cup since 1930, every tournament, giving us the story, giving us the detail, the importance of each World Cup and what happens there as well, the anecdotes too. It's a long read, but a very good read.
Yeah, it's one of the big books, and the amount of work he's put into this book. It's a big book. Don't be put off because you can dip in and out of this book. And it's a book which you can share with a lot of people. You start with the early World Cups and the stuff there. It's a history lesson. And he's not taking you kick by kick. So-and-so kicked to so-and-so. So-and-so scored a goal. It's more than that. And I think that's why it works, and that's why he's on the list with his beauty.
I think the political stories actually behind the World Cups are important. They're detailed here as well. You can see how it becomes more politically involved, the World Cup, as time goes on. Argentina 78, for example. West Germany played East Germany in the 1974 World Cup as well. You'll be surprised who won that game. But there's so much in this book, so many stories in the book. Like the time Scotland turned up to the 78 World Cup to find their hotel was dilapidated and there were 2 dead horses over the road. It was a forerunner for what was going to happen at that World Cup for Scotland. But it is a terrific book. Watch out for it on the Sports Book Club. That's forthcoming. Next one, Ultra Women, Lily Cantor and Emma Wilkinson, shedding light on why female athletes are outperforming men in endurance events despite the obstacles put in their way. This is an inspirational book, there's no question. It's a surprising book as well. Surprising in that men and women may read it, they might be surprised at the findings, how men are being beaten, outperformed by women in endurance events. I think that would surprise a lot of people.
Yeah, and I'll be brutally honest, when this book came in, I thought, oh, it's another running book. And it isn't a running book. This book will change your perception, and it will surprise and shock you. And it gets you thinking, I never thought of it that way. I didn't know that. But then you you read it and you go, but that makes perfect sense. You re-educate yourself with this book.
Absolutely. And actually, one of the surprising things, it's to do with the people involved, the individuals involved in the book, the people they're talking about, the people they describe, the stories they tell. So, for example, reading the first paragraph of chapter 13 was enough to exhaust me, because that first paragraph, it's about a 43-year-old woman called Jamie Aarons who is climbing 282 Scottish mountains basically in one go, stopping for power naps here and there. By the time the story picks up her journey, she's 4 weeks into it. She's run, she's walked, she's cycled, she's kayaked for over 2,500 kilometers. I mean, I'm exhausted just talking about that there. So those kind of stories, I mean, they grip you. And it's easy to read this book. It just flows. So it also ends with a plan for the future, this book. And I think this is really important. So to help women achieve more and to fulfill their potential through bit prize money as an incentive, kit manufacture, making things better, media coverage, etc. It's a book which is easy to read, but I love that it has a purpose going forward as well.
Yeah, and I think something which we haven't mentioned is 2 authors, which doesn't always work in a sports book because you don't know the balance, and this has worked perfectly for this one. And you do re-educate yourself, but it never feels like you're being lectured to. It feels like you're having a conversation and you're just being given the information for you to make a decision. No one is going wagging the finger going, you have to do it this way. And I think it's perfect.
Yeah, you're learning. It's a terrific read, that one. Next one is The Warrior by Christopher Clarey. He once again delivers a book with unparalleled access, unearths new gems about a sporting superstar, Rafa Nadal, and his, quote, kingdom of clay is what's been said about it. Now, Christopher Clarey's written a book about Roger Federer. He was tennis correspondent for the New York Times for a long time. He's come up with an absolute classic here. On the back cover, Billie Jean King calls him the top tennis writer of today, and that you can't really argue with that, and the book reflects how good a writer he is.
And the access this guy has is unbelievable. He is the best of the best here because his Federer book was really good, but for me, this one was just, I couldn't put this down. And when he's talking about dirt for the clay and going to the factory which makes the clay for the French Open and taking you on that journey, no one needs to. He makes you think completely different, and he's because of his access and because I think he's well respected, he gets the best out of everyone he's interviewing, and this book is just brilliant.
Yeah, he takes you into the inner circle. It's a special read without a doubt. Nadal won 14 French Open titles. I mean, it's an absolute joke. As one ex-player told Clary in the book, there is no way to comprehend that, and there really isn't. So to be that dominant on clay in an era of all-time greats is phenomenal, so worthy of the book. And I also love the fact that the book starts with a description of the statue that's at Roland Garros of Nadal. I love that fact, called the monument. That's what the chapter in the book is called, but that's a well worthy of being on the long list. Next one is The Escape by Pippa York and David Walsh, the unlikely friendship between an excellent writer and a Tour de France champ with an untold story that is both funny and poignant. So, just to fill you in on the story, and we have done the show with Pippa York and David Walsh, if you want to check that out. In 1984, Robert Miller was king of the mountains on the Tour de France. He finished fourth overall that year. After retiring, he kind of disappeared, went off radar. Nobody really knew where he was, to the point that there was a book called In Search of Robert Miller written about him. He had transitioned and started living as a woman a couple of decades ago, started living as Pippa York. So David Walsh, brilliant writer, he's the one who took down Lance Armstrong. Friendship between him and Pippa is unlikely, but it's funny. It's made for a terrific read as well. And it'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry, this book.
It's everything in it. It's so good as this book, because it does make you laugh, it makes you cry, it makes you angry. You go through everything on this journey. But I think it's the fact that it's a friendship at the end of the day. And that is the thing about this book, is you've got two people who have a love-hate relationship of cycling, and it's their journey through cycling together. And it's so well written, and it works because you've got bits of Pippa writing, you've got bits of David reflecting, and then you've got them, they're both in their conversations in the car, and you all want to be sat in the car with them on this journey because it's just funny.
Oh yeah, the transcribing of their conversations in the car as they follow the Tour de France around, very, very funny. Some of them are laugh out loud funny. Let's hear a bit of this. Pippa York shares her thoughts on why it was essential to include her journey of transitioning from a man in her story.
I find it interesting. So the whole kind of transition thing and being part of that group that people identify as and called transsexual, there's a kind of fascination of how everything works from then on. And nobody kind of really talks about it with any kind of seriousness, but you have to be kind of serious about it because it's medical procedures, but it's also quite funny.
But there's also a difficulty, people talking about it because they don't want to say the wrong thing, when actually we need an open conversation, don't we?
Well, David always said the wrong thing. He quite often said the wrong thing, and I just went, that's fair enough. There isn't. I think I warned you straight away at the start when you wanted to ask me questions about transition. I said, David, there's nothing that you can ask me that somebody hasn't asked me already, and that goes from the sublime to the ridiculous. And it's the same. So in the book, I tried to kind of explain that people will ask you things that they wouldn't ask their mother or their sister, but it's okay to ask me because it's almost as I've been part of that group, so you'll be okay with telling us what it's like in this group. And sometimes I'll explain, what they want to know, and sometimes I'll just say, no, you can't ask me that. But there's certain things you can try and explain with a bit more humour and a bit more kind of lightness to it.
Well, I'll tell you what, you got a flavour of it there that it's deep and it'll make you think. It might even make you cry, but it'll make you laugh as well. Pippa York was very, very funny, I have to say, in the episode that we did with her and David Walsh. And also, I think the detail that the book goes into in terms of the transitioning, you get details of the medical realities of it, what happens in the operations, but also, and again, that's very funny, particularly the story about the jars. We'll leave that there. But also, the people who react in a strange way when they meet Pippa and realise who she is, what she's been through. their reaction in the book is phenomenal. That's why it's such a powerful read.
Yeah, it makes you very angry, some of the reactions. But also we get David's side as well. We get David being told that no one wanted to travel with David during the period of time when he was investigating Lance Armstrong. No one would be associated with David because they didn't want to have their access cut off. And he was seen as the black sheep and no one should be with him. So you get all these stories coming through the book. It's an amazing book.
It really is special. Next one is as well, European football's greatest grounds, 100 must-see football venues, Leon Gladwell. Leon's photography makes you want to pack a bag and tour Europe's footballing outposts. Absolutely does. He takes the photos, he writes the words. It's a brilliant picture book, but it's also got some great stories to go with the pictures, isn't it?
Yeah, this first came through and you just think, oh, it's a picture book. But his writing is great. And also, it's very funny. On the list, there's a lot of serious books, a lot of emotional books. You need something a little bit light, and this book is the perfect book for this. And it's the fact as well, how much time this guy has taken to put this book together, go visit all these grounds. And he's not going to the big grounds. He's going to little grounds, tiny grounds around Europe, taking his family as well and making them into holidays as an excuse. It's just... It's a labour of love, this book and this project, and it deserves to be on a long list.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it does do some of the big grounds, but he doesn't like go over the top with them. So for the Bernabeu, Real Madrid, for example, I think he's underwhelmed by Real Madrid's ground. And when we had him with us on the book club, among the grounds that we discussed in the episode was Great Yarmouth Town FC's ground. That one stands out. Leon explains what makes it so remarkable.
It's from a time when the Victorians laid out their sort of sports and recreational park, shall we say, and little has changed apart from the sort of the hotels that have gone up behind the grandstand and the amount of cars on the road surrounding the stadium. It is as it was, and like so many of these grounds, the clubs and the local councils, for that matter, they put a lot of effort into keeping it, spick and span, coats of paint, keeping it looking good. And I think Great Yarmouth is such a fine example of that. They've got what is reputedly the oldest football grandstand in the world, and they look after it as they should. And the crowds might only be sort of 200-300 for a bloaters game, but at the same time, they're playing a very historic ground. So yeah.
They are, and I felt emotional just looking at that stand because it does look so old and so special.
Yeah, it's...
When you visit it and it's a real experience right in front of your eyes, that must be something very special.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Great Yarmouth for me is a localish football club. I've been there many times. But the attention to detail that went into some of these places, the circular windows, the brickwork, the carved sort of timbers. I mean, a nightmare to see a match past these, timbers in front of you, these struts, but just beautiful at the same time. And it just takes you back. It takes you back to, watching football in a different era.
He describes it so well on the show that we did. You can check that show out, but also describes it very well in the book. And the photos are so good as well. Actually, just looking through this book again yesterday, I noticed that photo of Great Yarmouth's ground, yes, the stand is there and you're captured by it because it's so brilliant. But if you look at the pitch, there's a game ongoing and there's two players, one from each side, sitting on the floor. And I'm thinking, how on earth has he captured that particular moment? So, yes, the words are great. The photos are very good in it as well. It's a brilliant book. Since we actually spoke to Leon, I've visited one of the grounds in the book for the first time. It's the Red Star Belgrade ground in Serbia. Leon's description and the photographs in that book made me think I'd been there already, which is just that shows how powerful this book is.
Yeah, he takes you to it. You're sat next to him in these grounds. He's just got a really good way of communicating with you in terms of visual and his writing.
Next one is also a football book, but with a difference. It's called I Can't Stop Thinking About VAR by Daisy Christodoulou. Forget everything you think you know about football's most divisive subject. This will make you change your mind. This is a brilliant, brilliant book. It's Daisy's first book about football. She is a football fan. She's written books about other things before, but this is the first one about football, and I love this book. It's analytical, it's entertaining, it's definitely not boring. It's a great little book. I'm delighted it's been long-listed.
Yeah, it deserved to be long-listed because this is a book which takes a subject which everyone gets very emotional about, and it takes the emotion out of it. And she does a fascinating job of taking her background of software in the education field and stripping it back and going very analytical. And that's what makes this book very special. And she talks to you in layman terms. It could be quite easy for this to become an academic book. And it's not. And this is a book where anyone in the office or anyone you know who gets really annoyed with VAR, just say, have a read of this, because it'll just change your perception.
VAR has sparked numerous debates, including its impact on the offside rule. Daisy here shares her view on how the offside law was in a better place before VAR's introduction.
I talk at length in the book about what is the spirit of the offside law, what is it trying to achieve, and ultimately it is trying to stop people goal hanging. And you can argue it does that very, very effectively. And all of the examples we're discussing, they're not players trying to steal an advantage through goal hanging. They're not.
Yeah.
Right? They're really not. They're players who are pushing at a line maybe, but they're not trying to goal hang. The other thing I talk about is you can also argue that pre-VAR, the offside rule was in a very good place because it had been liberalised. And I think most people would say they were happy with that liberalisation. They were happy with it being a bit more attack-friendly. And I quote in the book, Jonathan Wilson, he's got a really good long article where he talks about how he thinks the tweaks that were made to the offside rule in 2005 ended up expanding the amount of space that you play in. Because the offside rule effectively, however tightly you enforce it, if you enforce it too tightly, it's so easy to play the offside trap. And then you're basically compressing play in a narrow sort of 20, 30 metre band either side of the halfway line. If you liberalise the offside rule, you push it out and you make the pitch bigger. And that suits creative attacking players who like to find pockets of space.
100% correct. And actually, she mentioned Jonathan Wilson there. This is one of those rare examples, a real quirk with this book. It's got a foreword written by a writer who's also on the long list, Jonathan Wilson. Next book is States of Play, Miguel Delaney, a book that will come to be seen as a definitive account of how sportswashing took over football. This is a monster book. It's an epic. It's your go-to reference book on this subject of sports washing. The opening is really powerful, where the Emir of Qatar drapes Messi in the bisht, the traditional Qatari garment, after they've won the World Cup, Argentina, covering up the crest, covering up the blue and white stripes. And Miguel describes it so well. Very well written, epic of a book, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think this book will stand time. This book will be in 5-10 years, you'll go back. This will be the go-to book, we feel, for this subject. And again, it's a book you have to put down a few times because it's so big. And it's the amount of research he's gone into it. You have to take breaks because you're not getting through this in 1 or 2 sittings, because you have to comprehend what's going on. And we all watched that period, watched the match, watched what happened, and then you forgot about it. And then you reread it in this book and he takes you and what he thinks it means and blah, blah, blah. And you think, yeah, that just went by in seconds. But you think, yeah, this is what this book is about.
Yeah, powerful moment that. And we had Miguel with us on the Sports Book Club. He offers his perspective on how success at European football clubs has become less cyclical over time.
One of the things I kept thinking about during it, and one of the things that I suppose is a kind of a guiding principle, like if I compare football to even the turn of the millennium, when I was a kind of a teenager going into my 20s, and even at that point, it wasn't quite the 90s anymore, but you'd still say Arsenal could go and play Lyon, and it's a tough game. In fact, Lyon beat them well at one point. And Manchester United had difficult games against Dynamo Kiev, against Panathinaikos. And it just, like, obviously people might say some of that is just nostalgia for a lost world, but to me, that's what football should be. It have a vitality and health to it. Where, I mean, because, you know, one of the great beauties of the sport is actually its variety. I mean, look, again, to point to when we go up and when we grew up, and I suppose this might something that comes up a lot, especially when I was writing it, when I was thinking about it. Like, I grew up, you know, with Subbuteo teams and the colours that would transfix you, like seeing all the different kits, the names on the scoreboard. And that's the kind of what the beauty of the World Cup used to be about as well, opening you up to this other world. And instead, football feels like it's becoming this, as you get closer and closer to the top, and it further and further narrows, but because it had all these forces trying to take it over. And then it kind of becomes a question of, like, I think for a lot of fans who might listen to this, well, why your team can't win, which is basically because of what football has become.
Yeah, he makes some great points in that show and in the book as well. It's 436 pages of knowledge and research, and it's important as well. In terms of a book that details a period of football and its ownership, I think this book will go down as one of the most crucial works ever written. The next one is called Go to War, Football on the Brink in the 80s by John Sperling. It's one of a trilogy. He's written one from the 70s. This is the 80s. He's going to write one from the 90s. It says stellar writing transports you to the decade that changed the national sport. And the 80s, I mean, it was a strange period for football. It was physical. It was aggressive. There were also some wonderful players in there as well. Crowds weren't necessarily big. Crowds sometimes were violent as well. There were disasters and tragedies that happened. And yet this was right before the boom time of football with the Premier League. He's a terrific writer, John Sperling. He kind of just hits the spots with these nostalgia books as well.
Yeah, and his 70s book, it missed a long list. And then this one's come along and he's on the list. It's great because it's not just about football. He takes you to that period of time. I don't really remember the 80s, being born in the late 70s. So it's sort of... But he takes you back into that period and tells you what was going on with society and stuff like that. And it's not just match reports. He takes you onto the terraces. He takes you into those games. And he's telling you what's going on. And you fall in love with that period of time.
I can remember it. And I mean, you might, looking at us, you might think that he's older than me, but it's just not true. I recognise all of the references, cultural and football, in this book. And so if you were born at a certain time, this book is so brilliant for you. So I can recommend it. I found the stuff on Maradona in the book really interesting, not just the '86 World Cup, but also there was a game at Wembley afterwards where Maradona got roundly booed by pretty much everybody, and his recollections from that are fantastic. The research here is very good as well. All aspects of 80s football are explored. It's excellent. Test Cricket, A History by Tim Wigmore is also on the list. A deep dive into the most brutal format in cricket and why it needs to survive. Before I got stuck into this book, and it's massive, by the way, I asked a cricket-loving friend of mine about it. He said, Tim's a really good writer. He brings intelligence and knowledge to the subject. The book is relevant, mixes the recent with the past really well. 540 pages of Test cricket. And although it says it's about its history, it's actually about Test cricket's present and its future as well, which I think really makes this book interesting.
Yeah, this book is the ultimate of books on Test cricket, and it may have a small audience, but it does everything it says on the tin, and that's why it's on the list, because the amount of research he's done. But he also, again, takes you to that period of time, takes you through those, and you will learn stuff. I didn't know much about what was going on in the 1930s, but then you get it through this book. He's put everything into this book. His writing is great, and it deserves to be on a long list.
Yeah, I love the little anecdotal stuff like Javed Miandad, by the way, one of the greatest ever batsmen, the Pakistani batsman, how he started to play badly in the middle of an innings deliberately just to try and trick the captain of the opponents to set in a certain field so he could take advantage of that. That's brilliant knowledge. Chapter 35 as well is called Bazball and Beyond. It includes this great line: the greatest significance of Bazball, perhaps, is that almost 150 years after Test cricket was created, teams are still finding new ways in which to play it. Those watching too are still arguing about how it should be played. I mean, if you're a cricket lover, it's definitely for you. But I think as a sport lover, this is a must-read book. Next one is also cricket. Finding the Edge, Jimmy Anderson. How England's finest cricketer processes an unexpected end to his international career. And that end to the international career is how the book starts. And again, it's written so well. Felix White is involved in the writing of it with Jimmy Anderson. But that start to the book is superb, isn't it?
Yeah, and for me, that's the reason why I fought for this to be on the list, because we get a lot of biographies and they all start and they all follow the same template, and this one doesn't. And the fact that he starts with a period of time of retirement, for anybody, retirement is bad, but this is taken out of his hands. It was not his decision, and he takes you through that. It's also funny as well, because we have the chicken shop story in there as well, which still makes me laugh to this day. It's a great book, and he's done a great... Both of them come across in this book. Felix has got Jimmy just brilliant through this book.
They know each other well, don't they? Clearly.
Yeah. And it feels like you've got Jimmy's voice all the way through, which you don't always get with these types of books. and that's why it's on the long list.
Yeah, Jimmy was a guest with us as well on the Sports Book Club. A very enjoyable show that we did back in the summer of 2025. One of the book's most intriguing chapters is titled James versus Jimmy, and this is how Jimmy Anderson discusses how he distinguishes his on-field persona from his real-life identity.
You know, it would have been around 2010 when Mark Borden, a sports psychologist, came into the England team. And as I worked with him over a few years, we built this thing where it was two different people, essentially, where if on the field I'm too nice, there's too much James there, then I don't perform well. I need some kind of like an edge, the competitiveness, sort of not necessarily a nasty streak, but a little something that turns me into this animal that wants to compete and wants to get into a battle. So that was where the Jimmy sort of, we called it the James-Jimmy scale. And after each day's play, I'd give him a mark out of 10 where I was on this scale. And it just really worked for that period of time. And I think, again, going into the book, I think that has sort of broadened into my whole life. And at home, I don't want too much Jimmy there because, it's just not good for anyone. So I think it's really important to try and separate the two.
Such a fascinating insight, and that comes across in the book as well. And you mentioned it there in that piece with us, but it's called Finding the Edge for a reason.
Yeah, and I think also he took Felix back to Burnley and took him on the route of where he used to leave for school and go in the woods, Skybox School and stuff like that. They've proper done the work here, and it pays off. It's a great book.
Yeah, brilliant book. Next one, Chasing Salah, Simon Hughes. Simon gets dirt under his nails in the journey to explore football's biggest superstar. Mo Salah, probably the most fascinating of all the football superstars currently playing. His numbers are incredible, we know that. Liverpool's talisman, again, we know that. But he carries the expectation of Egypt, as well as a desperation, I think, for African footballers to be recognised on the global scale, i.e. with the Ballon d'Or. So I think Mo Salah, and he carries that well, Mo Salah, because he's not out there making headlines, making statements every single week in interviews or getting his agent to go to the press or whatever. So I think Simon Hughes is tackling quite a tricky subject here because there's not a lot to go on. So he goes to find it, which is what a good book should be all about.
Yeah, he's put the research into this book, and that's what's paid off for him. But he also hasn't done a Salah loving on this book. He criticises him in parts of it and takes you on a journey, which you don't always get when people are writing about the heroes. And I think, that's the reason why he's on the list. He's put the work in. And also you look at Salah in a different way. The pressure, not only Liverpool fans, but as you said, Egypt and the continent put on this one player compared to other players. He's under the spotlight more than anyone else.
He is. It's a great book. I think books about footballers, you can speak about this better than me, Foggy. Books about footballers, I think, are notoriously difficult, okay? There are examples, a lot of examples of books about footballers where they're only written because of the name of the footballer, okay? And sometimes the content leaves a little bit to be desired. Now, you've got a big name of a footballer here. It's not an official autobiography or not an official biography, so it's not got the backing of the player himself. But I think to qualify for a long list with a book like this, I think is something special. It shows just how much dedication and research has gone into it. Yeah,
he's respected the subject, but he's not fallen down the trap of just being very nice. He's shown both sides. This book is balanced. He shows you the good side and he shows you where he's made mistakes and criticises him at points. That's what makes this book special, and that's why it's on the long list.
And the last one on the long list is The Art of Batting, Jared Kimber, a wonderful examination of the craft that propelled some of cricket's biggest names to the top. And Jared Kimber, well known to talkSPORT audiences, this is a fascinating book. Kimber, it will educate you about batting in so many different ways, about running as well as batting. Kimber knows his numbers. We all know that from listening to him on talkSPORT. He can write about those numbers and his sport very, very well. And that's the bit that surprised me. I knew how good his knowledge of cricket was, how good his stats were, but his writing was so good in this book as well.
His writing is great. And let's be honest, it's not just about cricket. This is going niche into the batting. and you look at it and you think, oh, I'm not going to like this. It's too niche for me. I'm not massive into my cricket. But he tells you it in a way where it just, you go, oh, didn't know that, and it makes sense to you. And that's why he's on the list on something. And it's not just data. He's telling you stories. And that's what makes this book quite special.
It's the Javed Miandad stuff in this book rather than the other book that I was referring to. But that's the thing. He's analysed some of the greats and actually gone into greater detail than ever before about some of those greats with the bat in their hand. Terrific book, The Art of Batting, Jared Kimber. Those are the books on the long list, the 15 books that are on the long list. They become a short list in October and the winner announced in November when we'll have a special show. So it's congratulations to all of those that have been long listed. That is something to treasure, no doubt about it. Some of those on that long list have been guests on our book club, as you've heard. So you can check those out as podcasts, and some are on YouTube as well. We'll see you next time on the William Hill Sports Book Club.